and nobody's making it. No VC's making a ton of money if you raise that amount of capital and only exit for 25 million. So that is a challenge for web startups, is to basically do more with less. I should mention, going really back to the earlier stage, is that a lot of funding is happening sort of under the radar screen. So there are those seed funds, they're visible, people know about them. There are formal angel groups that are funding now, that are existing now. So Ange Quebec here in town is one of them. But in my experience, the angel groups actually only represent maybe less than 5% of actual angel deals. So there's this whole kind of informal network, and you have to just knock on a lot of doors, ask for a lot of referrals, just get to meet people and talk about your idea before you'll uncover those angels that can fund it directly. It's not just happening inside the angel groups and the seed funds. It's very much on a one-to-one basis.
So the first 50, like in terms of spending the money, right? It's nice how you line that up. So the first 50 is spent on product development. And then is the 50 going to bring them to a product ready to launch?
Usually not.
No.
But enough, the 50K is really to pay yourself something if you need to pay yourself something, and to hire one or two other people for a few months so you can build something. But you'll probably need follow-on money to actually launch it. And particularly because, like I say, the environment's so noisy, there's so much choice out there. You know, it's not a question of build it and they will come, right? You need to make some noise, you need to have resources. You need someone to provide users with a lot of tender loving care, right, and kind of curate your community and keep people engaged. So you need a team, you know, you need at least a couple of go-to-market people. And from day one, your user interface, your kind of corporate web presence, your messaging, everything has to be pretty bang on. So that takes some money as well. Yeah, so as I said, the biggest challenge is getting milestones on the seed funding, and there's a big gap between what someone is willing to fund at a seed level and what they're willing to fund at a Series A level. And often that gap is bridged with additional seed funding. So again, this is an argument for dealing with either multiple angels or a seed fund, because if you're dealing with just one or two angels, it's their money, they're not in the business per se of startup investing, it's just a sideline. And so sometimes when you get a check from them, that's it. You know, so you're kind of screwed if you don't hit your milestones. It's not like a fund that has reserves and can top you up and all that good stuff. So to be really Series A eligible, it's less about revenue. It's more about, you know, particularly in the context of web services, it's about that your waterfall is starting to work, that you have figured out how to drive people to your website, that your homepage and landing page is effective at converting people to users, and that users are coming back, so that you have both the beginnings of a large user base, but an engaged user base as well. So it's not about getting covered on TechCrunch when you launch, having a big week and then plummeting. It's about showing that you're building month after month, even if the absolute numbers are small, you're growing, such that in an investor's mind they can begin to form a thesis that these guys have figured something out, they've built something that the market wants, people are using it, they know how to support these users. They may have figured out how to monetize, but in many cases you want to build a big user base before you think about monetizing. So I know if I give these guys capital that they can do more of what they're doing today. They've proven on a kind of a micro level all the elements that I'm expecting them to execute on with more capital, so they can just explode on it. And it's Series A investors. I mean, investments at the end of the day are speculative. Most of them don't work, but in an investor's mind, when they make the investment, they feel like this investment's going to work. So no one's going to take a flyer. No one's going to say, oh, well, they'll figure it out. They want to see the elements in place before they invest. And so that's the biggest challenge, because you need to have figured out, really with no customer acquisition dollars whatsoever, how to drive people to your website. You need to have good copy that clearly explains what you do and the value of it quickly, because people will come and go and the bounce rate's usually pretty high. So you need to very quickly figure out the right messaging, the right value proposition so that they sign up. Once they've signed up, you need to kind of onboard them and get them engaged right away. You need to be super close to your users at all times. You need to be kind of iterating on your product pretty regularly. So if you're achieving those things, and like I say, even if the absolute numbers of users are small, but you're just getting better and better each month, then the Series A investor is going to think that there's something there. I would also say that opportunity size is a huge factor. So this applies to funding overall. It's not just about getting from seed to Series A. It's about whether outside funding, and particularly institutional funding, is right for your business in the first place. If you've built something but it doesn't have a really big addressable market, it can't theoretically be a business that's worth 50 million, 100 million bucks, don't go down that path, because you can have great traction, a great product, but the opportunity size isn't big enough to warrant the VCs getting on board. So it's very often I see these fundraising efforts, I see investors or entrepreneurs going down the path, and it's just because there's a disconnect. You know, for them, building a business that's worth 5 million bucks is great, but it's a total waste of time for institutional investors. It just is, it's not big enough. So thinking about the size of your opportunity and how you get to that size up front is really important. How many startups get funded in Montreal? Tough to say. Not a lot. I think that's going to change, but so Montreal Startup's been running for 2 years. It's funded 15 companies in total, so probably did 8 deals last year. Innovia Capital is active across Canada and in the US. It has actually followed in on 2 Montreal startup deals, one of which I'm involved with. And I'm guessing it did 5 or 6 deals in total last year on the IT side, but not all of them are in Montreal, because like I say, it's got a national program. And there aren't a ton of active VCs right now in Montreal. That's going to change. So there's some funds that have been here for a long time that are now looking to raise their next fund. But other than Innovia and BlackBerry Partners Fund on the mobile side, there aren't really any VCs that are actively looking for new deals. You've got some, so what you are seeing is follow-on investment into existing companies. So that happens a lot. But in terms of new deals happening, there isn't a lot right now, and that's a big challenge in this market. Out of those 500 that Montreal Startup has seen, it's not like the other 485 that they didn't fund got funded elsewhere. Yeah. Many just did not get funded. Ange Quebec is getting much more active now. I believe it's done 2 deals this year, one of which was IT. You're seeing individual angels filling a gap as well, but yeah, nowhere near that volume. So the truth of the matter is that most startups that go for funding don't get funded. Not necessarily. Yeah. I mean, so I'm involved with one company that I don't know that he ever went for funding, because I got involved much after. But he mortgaged his parents' house and went for it, and turned out pretty well. But yeah, so entrepreneurs just do what they need to do, I guess. But